it's an emotional roller coaster, and it's really important that people understand that before jumping into the deep end and knowing as much as they can beforehand through a job, right? Like I wish I was able to hold down a job a lot easier when I was younger, because that probably would have taught me more skills before going into business.
Mm-hmm.
Another point that's been made here, fewer headaches. I find that, again, it's a yes and no answer. Like, you could get a job, rock up, like you're saying, Bundy on, Bundy off, do what you got to do, in and out, get your pay packet at the end of the day. And if you're smart enough, you start realising, okay, I've got to channel it into assets. But at the same time, at the start of a business, look, like what we've mentioned before, if you were to take corporate mentality and apply it to your own business, there should be no reason as to why that business will fail unless it's just a shit product, full stop. But if you've got these strategies, you've got these methods and ways of, the sales process, the funneling, you're putting everyone in the pipeline, and you're just creating result after result after result. I find once you get that momentum going, similar with Luxland, it will start to become less of a headache. And I find...
Keep going.
And I find being in the corporate industry, again, I haven't been there, so I can't comment too much on it, but as much as we think it's less headache rocking up, you've still got to answer to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different people at times, and everyone is a different person. So for me, I'm dealing with Zar every day, so I know what Zar expects. I know how he is when he's on, when he's off, whatever. But if I had, call it 3 different people I had to answer to, or I had to answer to one who had to answer to another and another, everyone just palms the blame, down, do this, do this. And it's a ripple effect. So I feel that, for me, would give me more headaches if I was knowing that it's not Jade that's angry at me, it's Zar that's angry at Jade, and Jade's just palming the blame to me because it's like, you're working under me. So that, for me, would create more headaches. What are your thoughts on that?
I was just going to say, I agree to some extent. I think that does happen in a lot of corporate environments. But for me, I have a lot of what Zar does to thank for the way that I operate in corporate. And the way that I instruct my employees to operate and things that they need to do is in no way, shape or form similar to that. Like I empower them to make their own decisions and put them into positions where they need to learn, they're forced to learn, and that aren't that are non-humiliating, but that ultimately they're going to grow. My sole purpose, I think, the older that I get, is I used to be like, how much money can I earn? What's the next salary increase that I can go for? It's more about how much value can I add this year? Can I still add value in the corporate, in the organisation that I'm in? If I can't, then I know I'm not going to be there for much longer. How much value can I add to my staff, my team? If I can't add value to them as their leader, then I'm not going to be staying there for much longer, because my purpose in life is to add value and to make the world a better place than what I found it, or the place that I work in a better place than what I found it. So it just depends, really, on the person and where they're drawing their experience from. I draw a lot of my inspiration and how I operate in corporate with how Zar operates as an entrepreneur. He's an amazing CEO, and he's an incredible operator and very calculated and methodical, and it's just the way he's done things backwards. I'm talking about get your experience in corporate and then apply it into your entrepreneurship journey. Zar's like, go in the deep end with a lion heart and do this, and then and then you can learn skills along the way. So I think we've complemented each other a lot, I think, but a lot of what Zar does I can apply in corporate. So, but not everyone is like that. Some, but not everyone.
What are your thoughts, Zar? Fewer headaches?
Look, I think any job's going to give you a headache at the end of the day, but the business side of it also gives you a different side of headaches, and the responsibility is different. And you said something before about, and I almost interrupted you, I'm sorry, about how people, why wouldn't you just go down the job route and if you've got your sales in, and you know you've got this formula to make money and do well, why wouldn't you just go do that, right? The reason why a lot of people in jobs don't do that is because they're secure, right? They know that their pay packet's coming the next day. The reason why I am the way I am, and the way Jade explains the way I am, because it sounds a lot different to everybody else, is that I've taken a massive risk where I don't know if I'm ever going to eat tomorrow. You know, like if I get a sale today, I don't know if I'm going to eat tomorrow. Now, obviously, I have enough assets for us to retire, but more so, if we want to grow, we're not going to be able to grow unless we perform. And so I'm backed into this corner, right? And the only way forward is for me to punch on and to move, keep pressing forward. Where these other people who are working, for example, they're not backed into that corner, because tomorrow is always going to come. Tomorrow's going to come, and they're going to get that pay packet, and eventually, what happens? People get complacent, and that's why a lot of people aren't pushed to do anything with their income, because they know that they're going to get that pay packet again. And this is what the system is there. It's designed to do. It's designed to entrap us and get us working, so we pay tax and we just basically work for the government, really. At the end of the day, we're feeding these corporations. And when you go to school, that's what you're taught. You're not taught to go off and do your own thing, you know. Like it would be contradicting, because the teachers themselves are employees, right? So you're actually taught to go out there and become a consumer. And just, they call it the rat race, right? You're on this treadmill all the time. So you're not taught to go, all right, how about you go to work, get that money, and funnel it into things that are going to generate you income and grow your wealth, so you can retire at 40 years old. Why don't we have that education, right? Because the world would fall apart,
of course.
Right? If everybody did that, it wouldn't work. It'd be too competitive. So for our listeners out there, right, you need to be that minority. You need to step out of your comfort zone, get your back up against the wall, keep pushing forward for bigger and better things. Educate yourself on how you can do better. Maybe it's a side hustle. Maybe you've got a job and you've got this side hustle going where you're selling stuff on eBay or whatever it is. And then eventually you can leave your job if that's what you want to do. Or you've got this side hustle that grows so big, right, and it's self-sufficient, generating you the income to give you choices whether you want to go to your job or not. Because some people like to work, right? Some people like to go to their jobs. So, but wouldn't it be nice to have that freedom of choice, where you could wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to my place of work because I want to and I choose to, not because I have to.
I agree.
There's one last point here which is relevant to Luxland, but I think it's a complete joke of a point, to tell you the truth, is you can't lose your house when you lose your job. Now, it goes into a little bit of detail here, but I think whether you own a business or have a job, in today's market anyway, let's talk about today's market, and you do have assets, there is a high risk of losing that house, whether you got a job or not. Do you know what I mean? That's why you need to be, in my eyes, you need to play it smart. Whether you got a job or you're running a business, you need to make sure that your assets are well protected. As I said, this point, it kind of probably picks at us the wrong way, but you know.
Well, let's talk about it. So for our listeners, you know, the reason why it picks at us the wrong way, because we don't encourage you to buy a home to live in. And, you know, many of our listeners out there actually have homes that they've bought to live in. We don't believe that your home is essentially an asset, right? Because it doesn't generate you any income. However, because there's a lot of talk about it going on at the moment, where a lot of people are saying, rent vest, don't buy a home to live in, never ever buy a house, and all of that sort of thing. That's a strategy that we implement to people who are trying to start their journey in property investment, right? Because we live in a city which is, you know, the median house price is $1.2 million, which is, you know, far too expensive for someone to buy their first property with a $100,000 deposit. However, there are people out there, and I've got, you know, my business partners, for example, who are quite wealthy. They do have a pretty strong portfolio, and they've decided to buy their dream homes, and, you know, that's fine, right? Those people are in the position to do it. But if you are not in that position, and you're just, you're scraping together your deposit, and you want to make wealth really, really fast, and you're going to need to invest in assets that actually generate income and pay you money instead of being somewhere that's costing you money. So you're right, Mark. If you lose your job and you have a mortgage on a house that you live in, then, it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to be good for you. But if you've got a job and you've bought an investment property that's generating income, and that income is covering all of the expenses like interest repayments, insurances, taxes or whatever it is, then you could lose your job and you could still hold that business.
Of course.
So you're still in business essentially if you lose your job, but you've got, a portfolio of properties. So, it's interesting because, a lot of people lose their homes. When people 100%. Lose their jobs, a lot of people lose their homes. And it's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. I truly feel that, some people have over-leveraged themselves in home assets. You're talking $1.5 million homes, and, they start having kids, and then they come down to a single income. That usually it's, the husband or the father who's working and he's the breadwinner. If that person loses his job, then you want to hope that he's got insurances in place.
Yeah, definitely. Your
Absolutely.
thoughts, Jade?
I think in a very high profile executive role, the fall is very is from very high up. So I think that's where the trouble comes in. And a lot of I'm just going to talk about executive roles for a second, because those roles in particular, they're very few and far between. So when you're on a good wicket and then you're all of a sudden not, and yes, people have over leveraged because they've ridden a good wave for so long in corporate, and then it all comes crashing down for them. So one year they could be riding high as a CEO, and the next year, it could take them up to 6 or 2 years to find another role. So my advice is to just upskill yourself in every aspect of your life, including growing. I know this is cliche, and growing your future. This is exactly what we bang on about. What are you doing to grow your future? What exactly are you doing? We talk about it every day. We post about it on our social media channels every single day. What we mean by that is, what are you doing? What are you doing that's going to help you in your future? Are you remaining employable, highly employable? Are you building assets for the future, the right assets for the future? And it comes down to, how urgent is it for you?
Well, I got a Facebook comment on one of our pages, on our Luxland page, of a fellow in Brisbane who was basically saying that wages aren't growing, and what is your solution for all of this?
It was a really good post.
It was a good conversation that we were having, because it forced me to think of solutions for this person.
His name is Dan, I think.
And anyway, so his concerns were the market's inflating, and wages aren't keeping up. What are people supposed to do? And basically what I try and tell everyone is that the cards that we've been dealt are the cards that we've been dealt. That's what we've got to use. So just like 20, 30 years ago, when our parents were buying property, for example, they found different types of challenges of getting into the market.
That's right.
These are now our challenges, and the way we need to counteract this is upskill yourself. So, we're talking about a lot of the negatives before, about the fall's so hard if you're in an executive role. But you know what? If you're that good at what you do, and you're very well networked, and you've upskilled yourself, and you're a valuable commodity in the marketplace, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And if you've built a portfolio of assets that are generating you income, day in, day out, without you having to do anything, then you'll be fine.
Yep.
There's nothing to worry about.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap us up for another week. We're just about out of time. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, do everything that you do on social media these days. Send us an email if you have any questions, info@luxland.com.au, and you can find this podcast uploaded onto our iTunes Grow Your Future podcast channel. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll speak to you next week.
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.